Throughout the history of organized crime, various tactics have been employed to climb the ranks, including murder, kidnapping, extortion, and even collaborating with law enforcement to eliminate rivals. This last strategy has been notably used by figures such as Charlie Lucky, Luciano, Frank Costello, Carlo Gambino, and Meyer Lansky. A striking example occurred when Luciano betrayed Lepke, Buchalter. Luciano had assured Lepke that if he surrendered to the FBI, he would only face minor charges. However, once J. Edgar Hoover handcuffed Lepke, the betrayal was clear. Lepke was ultimately sentenced to death by electric chair. Similarly, Irving Waxy Gordon fell victim to betrayal when his criminal activities were reported to the IRS by his rivals. After his initial release, Luciano and Lansky conspired again, framing him on a narcotics charge. The role of informer has been played by many mobsters who sought to take down their enemies from within. Luciano himself turned informer in 1923 after being arrested on narcotics charges. In a more collective effort in 1959, Frank Costello, Carlo Gambino, and others collaborated to frame Vito Genovese, which also implicated Vincent the Chin Gigante and Carmine Galante. Galante would continue to be a significant figure in organized crime for many years. After the 1960s, the clandestine relationships between organized crime leaders and the FBI did not end. Instead, they simply became more covert. The FBI was well aware that top figures in organized crime were largely untouchable. These individuals were protected by layers of separation from the actual crimes, making it challenging to directly link them to any criminal activities. This situation persisted until before the RICO Act was established. Certain organized crime groups maintained their connections with the FBI to ensure their dominance. By eliminating rivals and colluding with FBI agents and district attorneys, these crime leaders could facilitate the arrest of lower-level gangsters. This not only helped take down their adversaries, but also assisted law enforcement officials in building their careers by appearing effective and efficient. The revelations of these tactics eventually surfaced, notably in 1985, when details about Aniello Dellacroce, the underboss of the Gambino crime family, were published. Dellacroce was a pivotal figure in organized crime, and with Carlo Gambino's approval, continued to use strategies that had been in place since the days of Lucky Luciano. These historical connections and tactics will be further explored in my upcoming documentary about Carlo Gambino. Here is the article from Time magazine written in 1985. His name was Aniello Dellacroce, which in Italian means Little Lamb of the Cross, and he took pleasure in killing people. He likes to peer into a victim's face, like some kind of dark angel at the moment of death, a federal agent once said of the Mafia chieftain. As underboss of the Gambino clan, the most powerful of New York's 5 families, he was a member and chief enforcer of the Commission, the 11-member council that reputedly oversees organized crime around the U.S. Occasionally disguised as a priest under the alias of Father O'Neill, a play on his first name, he traveled about the nation to impose edicts and settle disputes between rival mafia clans. Few mobsters dared to argue with him. Dellacroce, who died in his sleep in a New York City hospital last week at the age of 71, played another role as well. For almost 2 decades, he was an informant for the FBI. Though Dellacroce was not very forthcoming about his own crimes, he offered the feds a wealth of information about those committed by his enemies and the Commission. After Carlo Gambino, the capo di tutti capi, boss of bosses, died in 1976, Dellacroce told the FBI that another would-be godfather, Carmine Galante, had been marked for death. Dellacroce had reason to know plans for the Galante hit were hatched in his own headquarters, the Ravenite Social Club in Manhattan's Little Italy. The feds were able to isolate and protect Galante as long as he was in prison for parole violations, but after he was released in 1979, Galante was mowed down during an alfresco lunch in the backyard of a Brooklyn restaurant. Other information provided by Dellacroce gave the FBI leads on the still unsolved murder of Teamster boss Jimmy Hoffa and helped break major narcotics cases, including the so-called Pizza Connection case against 22 US and Sicilian mobsters for heroin trafficking. Dellacroce's double life began one afternoon in the mid-1960s when a limousine swung up to the Ravenite Social Club. Out stepped a tall man in a somber suit carrying a Wall Street banker's briefcase. "Who's in charge here?" he demanded. Awed hoodlums ushered the uninvited guest to Dellacroce's table. The bold stranger was an FBI agent named Pat Collins. Sitting down with Dellacroce, he began a slow courtship, gradually winning him over by convincing the wary Mafia leader that a private relationship with the federal authorities would not be a bad insurance policy in a high-risk career. Unlike Teamster union boss Jackie Presser, who escaped prosecution on charges of padding union payrolls this year because he was an FBI informant, Dellacroce's cooperation did not keep him out of jail. In 1972, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison for income tax evasion. Collins had expected that one day Dellacroce would demand payment for his information, but that never happened. The veteran FBI agent died of a heart attack in 1980 at the age of 51. This year, Dellacroce was ordered to stand trial on racketeering and conspiracy charges, along with 10 other accused members of the commission. Whether he hoped the payment would come in the form of exoneration from those charges will probably never be known. Before the trial could begin, the bloodthirsty little lamb slipped from the grasp of federal prosecutors. Understanding the intricate dynamics behind the scenes in organized crime reveals the crucial role of informants. Typically, a snitch is a lower-level gangster who, faced with a harsh prison sentence, opts to cooperate with law enforcement to reduce their penalties. However, higher-ups in the criminal hierarchy use informants and strategic manipulation for broader purposes. These leaders might leverage inside information to eliminate rivals and subsequently commandeer their operations. They also seek to curry favor with the FBI and judicial system, which can prove beneficial in other ongoing or future cases. This includes negotiating lighter sentences for their associates, corrupting agents, or aligning with the FBI to target specific enemies. Historically, the FBI has also exploited its connections with organized crime for broader objectives, such as undermining political adversaries or framing threats during significant social movements like the Civil Rights era. A contemporary example of these dynamics is seen in the arrests of El Mayo and the son of El Chapo. Behind the scenes, numerous deals likely facilitated these high-profile captures, including reduced sentences and financial exchanges. As a result, some of the most notorious gangsters might soon find themselves free and in strengthened positions within Mexico. This approach, previously employed against the Italian Mafia, is now being adapted with even greater intensity against various Mexican cartels.